deep down, I feel like we're obligated to really, really listen to and trust our heart and our soul, because it means we're meant to move on to something else. And often that something else can't appear until we've let go of the thing that we're doing.
This is the Building a Lifestyle Business Podcast, where we inspire solopreneurs like you to win back your life by teaching you how to build businesses that maximize your freedom, flexibility, and income, all without trading time for money. Here's your host, Nick Murphy.
Hey there, my friend, and welcome to the Building a Lifestyle Business Podcast. My name is Nick Murphy. I'm honored to be your host. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. If you're a frequent listener, you know I love you. If you're a new listener, I'm really happy that you're here. My goal, as always, over the next 40 minutes or so is to give you a ton of value by pulling out a lot of great details from the conversation you're about to hear, not just in terms of what someone set out to do in their career early on, but what shifted, all the things that go on both in their heart and in their mind that lead them to take a different path, and then really peel back the layers of how they built their business today, why they did it, all the things that go in. And we make sure that we pull out some tips that you can take and apply to your own business, regardless of what stage you're in. So that's the format of the show. If you're new, I'm thrilled that you're here. If you are new, go ahead and take a second and just press subscribe on whatever app it is you're listening to the show on right now to make sure that you never miss an episode. Today's guest is Cathy Weiss. And in our conversation, Cathy and I discuss why she walked away from her job as an elementary school teacher, her experience with pole dancing, and she shares her tips for any lifestyle business owner looking to more clearly define the value they bring to their customers. Cathy has a great success story, and I'm not going to make you wait any longer to listen to it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Cathy Weiss. My guest today is Cathy Weiss. Cathy is a naturally intuitive, clairvoyant, and source energy channel. I can't wait to hear what that is, by the way. She guides women to align with their heart and soul-centered lives, providing high levels of clarity and direction on how to move forward. Cathy also works with entrepreneurs and businesses to help them understand their energetic imprint on consumers, uncover energetic blocks as a whole, and with individual employees, and help them access creative solutions from an energetic perspective to drive their brand forward or make a shift if needed. Cathy, I cannot wait to ask you what in the world that means. How are you? Thanks for being here.
I am so great, and thank you for having me. I can't wait to tell you about all of this awesome stuff. So let me know where you want to start.
Well, there's energetic. I think I read that 3, 4, 5 times in 2 paragraphs. So let's just start with energetic and kind of what does that mean? I think everybody knows what energy is, but how do you define it? And then I want to get into kind of your backstory and how you arrived at this place. But let's start with what energetic means in the context of that bio.
Absolutely. And that's a really great place to start because, like you just said, people think they know what their energy is until they hear it explained. So a lot of us think like, oh, I've got a lot of energy today, or I don't have a lot of energy today. And we associate that with things like our eating habits or whether or not we got a good night's sleep last night and those types of things. But energy is actually your electromagnetic vibration. That vibration extends away from your body at least 5 feet. That's as far as the tools and technology that we have to measure this vibration can to this point. So it's not like your energy or that vibration that comes off your body hits a magic wall at 5 feet. That's just as far as we can measure it. And it's not only affected by things like food and sleep, but also by things like how you're breathing and the thoughts that you're thinking. And the thought piece is really important because thoughts are nothing more than electrical signals. And electricity is merely a wave, right? Electricity travels in a wave, and that wave travels through your body and then resonates off your body, creating that electromagnetic vibration. So that, in a nutshell, is what your energy or your energetic imprint is.
That's awesome. So if I were hearing that for the first time, I might assume that you have a background in science of some sort, but you actually have a master's degree in education. As you came out of college and you looked at your life back then as a kid, if you will, what did you think your path would be and kind of how did that unfold? And just walk us through the journey from then to now. And I'll interrupt frequently to ask deeper questions, I promise.
Please do. Please jump in at any point. Well, really, like finishing my bachelor's degree was like, I had no clue what I wanted to do and got an entry level, like straight up office job. And that was for me and my personality like torture, being inside of a cubicle all day long. And a little voice inside of my head said, I think I want to teach first or second grade. So I went back to school to get not only my teaching credential, but my master's degree in education. And I spent 10 years teaching first and second grade, exactly what that little voice inside my head was saying for me to do. And it was really satisfying for a while, I think, because it was brand new. It was sort of what I called my first big girl job. And there was so, right? There was so much involved in that career that the first several years were sort of just like survival mode of trying to keep these lovely 20 human beings occupied and learning all day long, and then really relishing
focused and listening and still and from yes
and then all of this stuff that people don't realize school teachers do. If you've never met a school teacher, they spend like if the school day is 6 hours, they're going to spend another 3 to 4 to 5 hours per day working on behind the scenes type stuff. So with all of that, then I was like just so stoked for summer vacation because I was exhausted after this like marathon of a school year.
So how was your energy at the end of a school year?
Oh, like bleh, like nothing left at all except the desire to lay on a beach and be a blob basically and go to yoga classes. Like that was my ideal summer vacation at that point in my life, was hitting up a yoga studio 3 times a week and going with my girlfriends to what we called beach day. And once a week we would all meet up and go to the beach.
And so you must have enjoyed that because was it after or during your stint as an educator that you actually became a certified yoga instructor as well?
It was towards the end of it. And what's interesting about that, so I was born and raised in the Los Angeles area, as was my husband. And for anybody who hasn't been there or lived there, a really interesting thing happened somewhere like in the 80s and 90s and 2000, where Los Angeles became the fastest growing city in the nation. And it went from, when we were teenagers first learning how to drive, there was a saying, you can get anywhere in LA in 20 minutes. And that was true. And
by helicopter?
No, like in a car, you could actually get places. But over that period of really rapid and exponential growth, it became like, so that girlfriend that I would have beach day with, I started saying like, it's going to take me 2 hours just to get to you. And I love you dearly, but I just, it's not happening. Like, because then that means I got to spend another 2 hours getting home. And it became this awareness of not wanting to spend 4 hours a day of our lives in cars.
Yeah. For those of you that haven't been to LA, like there isn't a place that I've ever been. I lived in LA for a little while too. There is not a place I've ever been where your day revolves around traffic. Like depending on where you need to be and when, that's when you plan your day around the commute, not you commute around your meetings.
Yes, 100%. And somebody even described it to me as a moving parking lot. And so much of the conversation of an Angelino is like, how are you going to get there? What route are you going to take? This is going to, you know what I mean? It's like, it's so consuming. And my husband and I just really started to realize that we didn't want to spend our lives doing that. And we knew that we were going to leave the Los Angeles area. With that in mind, and we were moving to the central coast of California, which is about halfway between LA and San Francisco. And the area we were moving to didn't have a yoga studio, let alone a teacher training program. So I decided kind of proactively to do a yoga teacher training in the year leading up to us moving, not with any intention to teach yoga or I didn't really think I'm going to become a yoga instructor. It was just like, this might just be a smart thing to do before I go. And then we moved.
And so you took that, you went up there, and is that what you did? Did you look for another elementary school teaching job as you moved, or what was your plan?
Yes. And this is where things get really interesting and like the universe gets involved in the life path a little bit, because I was like, yep, I'm just going to go get my elementary school teaching position. I'll find a little yoga studio, maybe, and maybe I'll teach 1 class a week or something just to keep these skills that I learned fresh. But in the process of that, 2 things were interesting. Number 1, class sizes were increasing. which means that the number of teachers they needed was decreasing. And there were literally 0 jobs available, like within an hour drive of where we were moving to. And I was like, we're leaving LA to not spend life in a car. I'm not taking a job that far away from our new home to spend my life in a car again. And the other thing that was interesting was as I was telling friends and whatnot that we were moving, people would say to me, you should open a yoga studio. And I was like, no. And then they'd be like, you should open a yoga studio. And I was like, no. Yoga's my hobby. It's something I do for me. By the way, I don't know anything about business. I'm an elementary school teacher, so it's just not happening. And about 32 people down the line of me having that response, someone looked me right in the eye when I said, oh my God, everybody says that to me. He looks right at me and said, hello, connect the dots. And I was like, oh, crap. I'm supposed to open a yoga studio. That's when it changed.
Yeah. So what you did you resist it looking back, or were you just kind of like, that's not my thing? Like I enjoy yoga, but that's not what I want to do. How'd you feel when you did decide to connect the dots? Was it, I'm excited about this. This is going to be a new challenge. I can do it. Or were you like, I don't know why I'm being kind of called to do this thing, but I guess I'll go.
I think it was a mix of both. I think it was a little bit like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But number one, this town doesn't have a yoga studio, and I'm terrified about not having a yoga studio to go to. And number two, why not? Like this is what's showing up in my life. I can't get a job as a school teacher. I need to do something. So here we go. Let's follow this path and see what happens.
So let's talk about that. You doubted yourself. I think you just admitted that you had no idea what you were doing in terms of business. So what did you learn? Where did you start? Where did you turn for that kind of guidance in terms of not how to teach yoga specifically, but how to run a yoga business?
Gosh, I have to go back into the recesses of my brain. This was shockingly, people, this was before the internet was as useful as a tool as it is now. So I might be kind of giving away my age a little bit with this, but it was there, but not nearly like we use it nowadays. And there was no such thing as Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or any of that type of stuff. So we bought a book on how to open and run a business and some software that was for designing a business plan. But even then it was just fumbling and stumbling, and went to it was a day-long seminar about legal stuff around do you open an LLC or a sole proprietorship or, that kind of stuff. And so starting to learn those pieces of the puzzle and putting together this business plan that I felt like I was just making it up. I was like, okay, I don't know, here we go. And just found a little space, and really it was just kind of a wing and a prayer and making things up as I went along at first.
So how did it go, and how did that studio go? How did you kind of open it, and how long did you own it, I guess, before you became an energy person?
At first, it was terrible. The studio itself was gorgeous and lovely. And my only experience of yoga was in Los Angeles, where there are classes from I think even before 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. at night. And they're packed. 15 people in a class in Los Angeles was considered a small class. So I had these, I think, unrealistic expectations about what was going to happen in a smaller town. And on the first day, 6 people showed up, and I was a little bit let down.
That's great for the first yoga studio in town, though, really.
Right. But at that point, I was a little bit just that. What didn't go quite the way I thought it would. And there were even days when no one would show up, and it would just be me all alone in this beautiful studio crying because I didn't know what to do, but I worked it. I did the networking and started to spread the word, and things started to build. But what was really interesting is about a year into that, some women messaged me saying they were coming through town teaching a pole dancing class. And I had done pole dancing for a couple of years in Los Angeles and really enjoyed it. And I was like, yeah, let's do some pole dancing. Great. And the women who showed up to take the class loved it. And I asked them, well, did you want to do this some more? And they all went berserk, yes. And so my yoga studio, over the course of the second year of its existence, actually transitioned into something called Yoga Flirt, which combined the wisdom of yoga with the free-flying experience of pole dancing.
That's a great name.
Thank you. So already like things kind of like shifted and switched up on me. And then I ran Yoga Flirt for 7 years before I closed the studio down.
So let's go there. What made you close the studio down? Kind of what was going on both in your head, in your heart, in your life, and in your business that led you to make that decision?
Another great question that has a couple of different layers to it. One was, at the time, I wasn't aware of it and I wouldn't have used this language. I used to say to people, Yoga Flirt came through me, not from me. Because like even that name that you said, oh, that's a great name. When I thought of like, okay, if we're going to do this, what am I going to call it? That word just popped into my head and there was never a discussion about it being anything else. It was like, that's just what it is. It was a set program with 6 levels. So unlike a lot of other types of studios, it was like everybody starts on level 1. And on level 1, day 1, here's what you learn. You learn yoga philosophy and these movements. And so the whole thing exponentially built. And a student could come to Yoga Flirt for up to 4 years and continue to learn new information and new material. So I spent the first several years in a really creative process. And what I, looking back, realized is that that creative process was actually me channeling, and that I was channeling the entire program. And we'll get into what channeling is in a minute. As that kind of like finished, Yoga Flirt for me was complete. It was everything it was supposed to be, and everything that was supposed to have come through me came through. And I started getting a little bit bored because I wasn't creating anymore. It was like very repetitious. Then alongside of that, my husband owns his own business, and his own business was like growing and expanding and becoming a worldwide endeavor. And so we had these 2 big successful businesses, and we used to say, we know we're married because there's somebody sleeping in the bed next to me. Because we were, right? We were both so busy and so consumed with running 2 different businesses that there wasn't a lot of time left for us in our marriage. And it wasn't the marriage that we wanted to have. And we didn't feel like we needed to have 2 massively huge successful businesses. That wasn't satisfying for us. So kind of the culmination of all of that, I thought that I would sell Yoga Flirt. And it was for sale for about 16 months without any real serious offer coming through. I was just like, then I have to close because I can't keep doing this. I don't love it. I'm kind of like dreading going and doing this every day, and my heart's not in it anymore.
So talk to that listener out there that is in that position, whether it's in a career they haven't left yet to go start their own business, or in a business that just doesn't feel right at the moment. On paper, the business is doing really well. You've kind of created this vision. Your clients are happy. They want you there, and you still make the decision to walk. How do you do that? And how do you encourage someone who might be feeling a temptation to do that just can't get over, everything's so good. Why would I leave? Talk to that person for a minute.
Number one, the first thing I want to say is it's hard, and it wasn't easy to do on an emotional level. I had a lot of grief around the decision and the people. I loved my students very much and had great rapport with them, and I had a staff. I would just want to throw that out there and just hear that it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but deep down inside at a gut level, you just know. And if you just know and it's really time to move on, this is what I consider to be a soul-centered life. It may not make sense to anyone else. It may not even make sense, like you said, on paper, but deep down, I feel like we're obligated to really, really listen to and trust our heart and our soul, because it means we're meant to move on to something else. And often that something else can't appear until we've let go of the thing that we're doing.
Man, go back and listen to that a couple times. Just hit the little back 15 seconds on your app there, because that is really, really well said. And at the end of the day, it isn't an easy decision. You have lots of people's opinions, lots of things that might be influencing that decision, but you were able to do it. How did you feel right afterwards? Like the first day you wake up and the studio's closed, everyone knows it. Like, was it immediately cleansing and you're like, okay, that was the right thing, I'm moving forward? Or did you mentioned the word grief. Was there a period where it was kind of a lot of mixed emotions as you moved ahead?
Yeah, there was definitely there's space in our heart for more than one thing. As I was in the process of closing, like canceling the gas and the electricity and things like that, I never once had like a sense of doubt. And it was almost like I was becoming unbound is the word that I would use. It was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I was tied and held by this business until I started the process of closing it. And there was a huge sense of relief of not having to go and teach 9 classes or, whatever it was I was teaching right when we closed. I think it was about 7 or 8 classes a week. On top of all of the other aspects of running a business, it just felt like, thank God I don't have to do that anymore.
So you walk away from this, were you immediately clear on what you were going to do next? Or was it really just the personal kind of toll and taking stock of your marriage and how you guys were feeling, knowing that you could afford to walk away from one or significantly change both businesses? Did you know what you were going to do next when you closed, or was it just to fix what was going on personally?
Yeah, my intention was to teach small groups of yoga and private yoga. So small groups of yoga for women and private yoga, and to write a memoir, which is that is a whole different story. We'd almost have to take different podcasts to talk about why the heck I sat down and wrote a memoir. But that was what I immediately, so we closed in December of 2015, and January of 2016, I started teaching a couple of really small, when I say small, 2-3 people type size classes of yoga classes a week, and spent about 14 or 15 months writing a memoir. And I assisted my yoga teacher with a teacher training. That one was a little bit of a surprise, but it was, again, this is where we really trust the things that come up for us. When that opportunity to assist the teacher training came up, I said yes, and I'm going to do it without pay because I just know that I need to do this. And that was the thing that kind of filled a little bit of the space and the grief in my heart, because it reconnected me more to my yoga practice than the pole dancing and the pole fitness. And so that was kind of what I did for about 2 years. Yeah, until the end of 2017. That was what I was doing, was just kind of allowing that stuff to unfold without a real specific sense of direction as far as business goes, or being really deliberate that I'm creating this new thing. I was no, I'm just writing this book and hang out and teaching a little bit of yoga.
So you have a new thing, you have a new business now. What happened between the beginning of 2018 and where we sit today? Talk a little bit about that business. We mentioned it in the intro, but explain kind of where it came from and what you do and why you decided to go that direction.
So I wrote that memoir and then had an opportunity to submit it into a book publishing contest with Hay House to have the book published without needing an agent, which is really a rarity for traditional publishing. You generally need an agent. And I was using the law of attraction, which is where you visualize and you feel. And I just knew I was going to win this contest, and I could see the cover of my book, and I knew what outfit I was going to have on when they called me to tell me I won. And I knew that feeling, and I was in it 100%. And the day came when they announced the winners, and it wasn't me. And it was just oh, stupid law of attraction. What is happening? So lame. And I was really just kind of crushed. So I got on the phone with a friend of mine who's a Reiki practitioner. And she was the only person in my life at that time that I would even remotely talk about energy or spirit guides or law of attraction. And we had a really great conversation. And at the end of it, she said, I'm going to send you this deck of oracle cards. And the moment that deck arrived and I touched it, I heard really loud and clear in my mind, you have to do this for other people. And it was just one of, again, those moments, like I knew when the word yoga flirt came into my mind, I knew that I needed to do this. I didn't really know what that meant, though. I was I'm supposed to do oracle card readings? Okay. So I just kind of threw it out on Facebook. And some friends, took me up on it so I could practice. And I really, really quickly realized I wasn't reading the oracle cards. I was reading their energy. And through some trial and error over about 6 months. So into about the middle of 2018, I sort of tinkered with what it was I was doing. It became very evident to me. Some things that were familiar about myself, but I wasn't looking at specifically, is that I'm highly sensitive. And only about 20% of the population is highly sensitive. What that means is that electromagnetic vibration we talked about that extends away from your body. Most people can feel that off of another human being. They may not be able to articulate it, but when you're in close proximity, you feel other people's energy. I can feel that at greater distances. I can feel and tune into people's energy anywhere on the planet. So my home base in California, I work with people in the Middle East and the UK and on the other side of the United States. So I discovered that. I discovered that I'm clairvoyant. And that was another interesting thing because I was working with a business coach trying to figure out, like, how do I explain to people this thing that I'm doing? I don't even understand what I'm doing. And she said to me, oh, you're clairvoyant. And I was like, what? No, that's like some weird old lady, like hunched over a crystal ball. Like, what is that? And I had to do some research and understand that really all that word means is that when I tune into someone's energy and I feel that energy is just a vibration. It doesn't have words or language. And when I feel their vibration, I see an image in my mind or I hear words, somebody's talking to me almost. And that's what clairvoyance is. It means clear seeing. So it just means I'm feeling your energy and I'm interpreting it into an image in my mind. I was like, oh, okay.
So California is far more open-minded than a lot of places. At some point, I'm sure you've run into skeptics and other people who hear something and go, oh, that's just very like woo-woo. I don't believe in that. Is there a story you have, a client you worked with or something you can remember back on where somebody was super skeptical and then you were able to channel in some kind of way what that energy was and make some kind of impact that changed their mind? I think, there's at least one listener out there that's just kind of shaking their head going, what in the world is going on here?
Yeah. When you asked me that question, one person in particular came to me, and it was when I was still sort of practicing and working with friends. We had a session. I just described to her what felt like an energy block and that I was going to dissolve this energy block for her. She went home and told me, like, I've been really overly emotional for the last couple of days. And it's because I realized I hate my job and I've always hated this job. I keep waiting for it to get better and it's not going to get better. And then about 2 weeks after that, she said, this is so weird and crazy, Cathy, but I'm going to quit that job and go back to doing what I was doing before because I loved it, even though there's less pay involved. And I was like, exactly. That's what I do. She's like, this is so weird. How does it work? And I'm like, I don't really know how else to explain it, except that that's a really great instance of some of the work that I do. Now I don't really encounter skepticism directly. I'm sure there are people who feel it, but they aren't expressing it to me. I think the people who come to me for the work that I do already know and trust and believe in what I do. And so I don't bump up against that.
So how do you explain it? It's a very unique and different kind of business. It's not tangible. It's not like, hey, I sell copywriting and tell me what you want me to write about. So how do you position a business like this? I'm sure there's others. I can't think of any great examples off the top of my head. But if somebody has a business out there that is a little less tangible, that is a little kind of a relational business, how did you learn to position that and kind of attract the people that, like you said, are not just open to what you do, but want to work with you specifically to solve it for them?
I have a handful of questions. I have a handful of answers for you. First, I'm going to explain to you how I'm positioning it, and then I will explain to someone who is struggling, perhaps, with something like this, how they can get to these answers. So what I explain to people is a session with me looks a whole lot like a life coaching session or a therapy session without the one-size-fits-all approach. I help women who are feeling stuck, uncertain, or longing for more in areas like relationship, career, health, or home find clarity, confidence, guidance, and alignment. And the work that I do is called intuitive energy guidance.
Really clear, really concise. I totally get what you do? How did you get to those answers? Because that sounds like it took some work to refine.
Oh man, did it take some digging around. Some of it was working one-on-one with a business coach. And some of it was, I read a really great book I think it's called Attracting Perfect Clients, which helps. And then I also got on the phone call with the handful of regular clients that I had already established and started asking them questions. What is it that you get from a session with me? What is it you're looking for? How do you perceive that I'm helping you? And I just compiled this big Excel spreadsheet full of the language that they were using and put that together and realized that there was sort of like a consistent pattern to the responses that I was getting from my clients. And also realized that it didn't matter so much what I call myself, is that it matters the results that my clients get. And so I even say, some people call me their coach. Some people call me their healer. I don't care if you want to call me your rainbow sparkle fairy godmother. What I care about is the results. And 100% of my clients agree on the results.
That's awesome. That's really cool. It's a great exercise too. And for those of you, whether you have a tangible or intangible type service business, do that. Go out and ask your clients. And if you don't have clients, go ask your perfect client. Like, who would be ideal to work with you? What kind of result do they want? What would a win look like for them? And ask 5, 10, 20 people, as many as you can, and look for those trends. That's how very clear, concise messaging comes to be. So I applaud you for getting there that quickly. It's only been about 1.5 years, but 1 year. So as you look back on where you are in your current business, is there a moment in time or a client or an outcome that you created that you can just pinpoint and say, this is the reason that I get up and do this. I'm so blessed to have this be my career.
Yeah, I feel like I get that a lot. It's really anytime anyone messages me and explains to me how what I did impacted them. And it's even, I do every week on Facebook, I do a free, call it Monday messages. I do a free channeled message and an oracle card draw, and I give action steps for the week. And even people who only participate in my free offerings, when they come back and thank me or tell me how it affected them, every single time it feels like a win to me. And it serves as a motivation for me to keep doing what I'm doing, because I do have that very practical side of my mind that understands that we're still normalizing the conversation around the type of work that I do. And it's still a little bit out there on like the edges, or even like some people call it, it's kind of woo woo and out there and hippy dippy. I'm really cognizant of that. And so any little bit of feedback that I get that tells me I'm helping anyone is such a huge win and helps me trust and keep moving forward with what I'm doing.
That's awesome. We play a little game here on the podcast called Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire is brought to you by Podigy. For you frequent listeners, I can't stand doing my own audio editing or even writing my own show notes. That's why I hire the guys over at Podigy. They make me and guests like Cathy sound great each and every week. So if you're an aspiring podcaster or you're tired of doing your own editing, look up the guys at Podigy. Let them know I sent you.
Oh, I so am, because you never know where these are going to go.
You sure don't, but let's get started. What do you think about when you're alone in your car?
Wow, I totally drew a blank on that. A lot of times it's just like sometimes I'm channeling, and sometimes I'm thinking about what I'm going to go do or what I'm going to go do after I do the thing I'm going to do.
What's your advice for your previous boss?
Have a little bit more fun.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
The best version I can of myself.
What inspires you?
When I see people willing to take risks because they're following their heart and soul without knowing the outcome.
What is your biggest fear?
I'm totally blank on that, because I feel like I don't have a lot of fears anymore, because the more I sink into trusting my heart and my soul, the more I know everything is working out perfectly. But I would say, like, not completing my life's work or my life's purpose.
Who do you admire the most?
My husband.
Which celebrity annoys you the most?
Maybe the Kardashians. How
do you define success?
I just wrote this down and it's in the other room. Wait, I think I posted it on Instagram. I'm totally nerding out, and I'm going to see if this is the thing that I posted today, because this is the ultimate level of success. Now is the ultimate time to embrace who you are. We are living in a time when it has never been safer to be the full embodiment of yourself. But we say unto you this, acceptance is an internal, quiet sensation. It is not blasting out for all the world to see, know, and hear. It is not seeking validation from outside sources like those likes, hearts, and stars. Acceptance is deep, soul-level ungripping that allows you to advance in fulfilling and living your soul's purpose on this planet in this lifetime. Know and be still. This is the truth. We did not get it wrong. We did not get you wrong. You are ease. You are love. You are pure, positive bliss and freedom. Relax into your being. This is the ultimate level of success.
I think you just got some followers. That's perfect.
Woohoo!
All right, last one. You get to share a drink or a meal with anyone in history, dead or alive. Who is it and why?
Elizabeth Gilbert, because she's just a fucking badass.
There you go. You survived rapid fire, Cathy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And before I let you go, knowing what you know today about your business, if you were to go back and start over tomorrow, what would you do differently?
I think I would have learned some really concrete business skills a lot sooner than I did, and disallowed myself to get so caught up in the day-to-day running of the business that I wasn't able to actually step back and learn some valuable tools.
Great stuff. I'm sure you've got a lot of people that are very interested in learning more about you. Where can my listeners go to do just that?
Couple different places. I'm online at Cathy with a C -Weiss.com, WEISS.com. I'm on Facebook at Lightworker Cathy Weiss, and I'm on Instagram at Lightworker_Cathy.
Love it. We'll put those links in the show notes. Cathy, fascinating conversation. My mom's a yoga teacher. My stepmom's an elementary teacher, and I've heard energy and Reiki and all kinds of different stuff my whole life. And I've been a skeptic at times. I've been very accepting at times, but I love the way that you are just open about what you do, who you can help, and the clarity in which you describe it is as good as I've heard anybody in your space describe what they do. So thank you so much for spending your time and giving some of your energy to us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute blast. I loved it.
And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Cathy Weiss. Fascinating stuff. And if I say it almost every week, guys, like, it does not matter what business you're in or what business you want to start. There is a way to create a clear, compelling message and attract the types of people you want to work with on your terms. Leaving LA for a reason as simple as not wanting to deal with traffic has turned into this calling that's allowing her, and you can tell from the story, to really feel fulfilled by what she's doing. And at the end of the day, that's what this show is all about. It's helping you find what it is for you. And if you know what it is, helping you scale it and make sure that it can be successful so that you can live the way you want to live. And here's your weekly reminder to subscribe, rate, and review this episode on iTunes or whatever app it is that you use to listen to podcasts. In addition to talking directly to me, I read each and every one of those reviews. You're channeling and channeling. I wonder where I got the word channeling in this episode. You're channeling to iTunes and the other podcast apps that this episode and this show is something that people want to listen to. It means the world to me. If you haven't taken a second to do that, you only got to do it once, but please do subscribe, rate, and review the podcast to make sure that other people can find it. I appreciate you hanging out with me this week, and I'd be remiss if I let you go without reminding you to get in the game. Trading time for money is no way to live. You deserve to live a life on your terms, and building a lifestyle business is the fastest, safest, and best way to do just that. I appreciate you being here. Y'all have a great week, and I will talk to you very soon.
Thanks for listening to the Building a Lifestyle Business Podcast. To access the resources mentioned in this episode, visit www.nickmurphy.io.